Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone. I hope you are well in everywhere you are in today. Yeah. In this afternoon, I'm sorry. In this afternoon, yeah, we will have a small talks. Yeah, talking about mitigation, especially for tsunami disaster and Aceh recovery after tsunami. Yeah, and to talk more about that things, yeah, we have a special guest today, and in front of me there are two special guests here. I will introduce you. The first one is Mr. Miklos Gaspar, as a director for Indonesia and the Philippines from United Nations. Hello, Mr. Miklos.
Hello. What about?
Good. How about good? How are you today?
Very well, thank you. Great to be here.
Nice to meet you too. Okay, we will talk about a lot of things, yeah, Mr. Miklos, for our small talks today. And the other one, I will introduce you to this afternoon, Bu Intan, as a curator Museum Tsunami Aceh. Hello, Bu Intan.
Halo.
Oke, apa kabarnya nih?
Alhamdulillah sehat.
Okay, so I will mix the language, yeah, for this small talks, everyone. And yeah, more or less, yeah, we have one hour, yeah, for these small talks. We'll talk about more the role UN in recovery. Okay, first of all, I want to go Mr. Miklos. Yeah, first, Mr. Miklos, the role of the UN in Aceh recovery after conflict and tsunami. What do you think?
Well, so again, thank you for having me.
Mm-hmm.
It's the first time I'm in Banda Aceh, and I just want to start by saying, I mean, even for somebody like me, 20 years later, how difficult it was to be on those sites. We went to see a mass grave. Yeah. We went to see that boat up in the air. I met some people who lost their families, and it's very, very sad. And obviously, and it's different to read about this on the news. And to actually experience it. So my heart goes out to all the people of Aceh even now. And they've clearly been very strong. I met a Kepala Desa yesterday who was telling me about how his wife had died and his daughter. And I just can't imagine what he must have gone through. And even now, it was very hard for him to speak about this. So yeah, even 20 years hindsight, all my condolences to the people of Banda Aceh and the province of Aceh.
Okay. Mr. Miklos, the UN has played a big role, yeah, in helping Aceh recovery after tsunami in 2004 and after the Helsinki peace agreement that time, yeah, especially in 2005. Yeah. And how does the UN view in the development of Aceh after then until today?
So there were 12 UN agencies, at least 12, that helped in the aftermath of the tsunami. You see, the UN, many of the agencies are equipped with big boats and just equipment to deal with disasters anywhere in the world. And so very quickly, the international community, through the UN, came to help the Achenese people. Organizations like the International Organization for Migration or UNICEF, UNDP showed up within just a few days. And some of them helped with the immediate needs of the people, like the World Food Programme, delivering food. Yeah. Others helped with the reconstruction, like UNICEF built schools together with UNOPS. UNDP helped rebuild like the harbor in Ulele. Yeah. So different agencies, depending on the mandate, supported the reconstruction. Well, first supported the survivors right away, and then the reconstruction afterwards. And yes, it is great to see that Aceh now is a beautiful city. You see no signs of the tsunami. Well-built roads, nice buildings, lots of green. So much nicer than Jakarta, I must say.
I see. And what do you think about the several sites of tsunami disaster in Aceh, like today in Museum Aceh and also PLT di Apung ship there and the boat in Lampulo. What do you think about that?
Yes. Well, first of all, the museum is very, very well done. I mean, I've been to many museums all over the world, including Indonesia, and I must say this was such a modern approach to give people the feeling of what it must have been like. I mean, of course, you can't imagine this if you hadn't been through. but like they have that, what do you call the wall of the with the water?
Chamber of blessing.
Chamber of
blessing.
Chamber of blessing. So I mean, when we go through at first, and there's the tsunami alley. That's it. That you, because again, it's different to read that the waves were up to 30 meters high, and then you experience, oh my God, this is 30 meters high. So you cannot do, you're helpless if something like that happens. And then also they have, lots of pictures and in very good taste. And then interactive exhibitions and that room of remembrance with all the names on the wall. I think it's a super well done museum. So often, these days it's very hard to keep the interest of children and students because they just live on social media. Everything is 5 seconds. But this museum, I think, manages to do it well with the diversity of this place. So I'm sure that's a good resource to local people and then also to visitors, whether from Indonesia or abroad, to have a bit of an understanding. They also showed me a video, and while I had seen many pictures of the tsunami, I had never seen a video, a film, you see the water coming.
Oh, I see.
Frankly, I was wondering what happened to the people who were filming that, because sometimes it was street level. But really, just what the force of nature is unimaginable for somebody who didn't go through that. So I think the museum is gives us, that kind of impression. And it's also good to keep these alive, for remembrance, but also to learn from it for the future.
For educational.
For educational, so that those who were not yet born there or weren't here, at least they take this seriously and they prepare. I mean, as we know from geology, it's a matter of when, not if. When there could be another earthquake and maybe a tsunami. So people living here, I mean, need to know really what to do, right? When the next tsunami hits, and I think the museum does a good job of doing that. And again, that boat, Lampolo, sorry. So there,
but
I mean,
on the roof.
On the roof, that they thought about keeping that boat there because again, oh my God, how could a boat, be up there? And you are not on the seashore. You are 2 kilometers from the coast. So again, that helps to understand just how forceful the water was. And then underneath that, they turned it into a little memorial, room, which is again very touching.
The disaster of tsunami.
The people from that kampung who were victims. And then we went to one of the mass graves. Super sad. I mean, I had been at mass graves before, but those were always sort of man-made. War, whether in Rwanda or in Auschwitz, these kind of places. But here to see that the people who are victims of a natural disaster, I mean, I must say it's like really, I just all my sympathy and also admiration to the people of Aceh that they have, they found a way to rebuild their lives and built a new nice new city.
Okay, next one. So for now, I try to Bu Intan. Let's talk in Indonesia.
Yes.
Okay. Maybe Mr. Miklos will edit some after that. Bu Intan, tentunya ini kan selaku kurator Museum Tsunami Aceh juga ya. Kita di Museum Tsunami Aceh ini juga sudah melakukan banyak perubahan ya dari pasca tsunami-nya tahun 2004 atau setelah selesainya itu gedung sampai saat ini sejauh mana atau berapa sudah perkembangannya dari awal itu sampai saat ini di Museum Tsunami Aceh kita.
Sebelumnya saya ingin mengucapkan terima kasih dulu sama Pak
Miklos.
Atas tadi maksudnya tergugah lah karena sudah datang ke Museum Tsunami. Jadi dari awalnya Museum Tsunami itu dibangun pada tahun 2007. Kemudian baru dibuka untuk umum itu pada tahun 2011. Jadi kalau kita lihat dari segi peningkatan jumlah pengunjung itu sangat meningkat pesat ya. Contohnya ini yang terakhir aja pada tahun 2004 itu yang terakhir jumlah kunjungan itu mencapai 200 ribuan lebih gitu. Itu yang mana 20 ribunya itu ada pada jumlah pengunjung asing dan sisanya itu adalah jumlah pengunjung nasional. Jadi untuk dari segi peningkatannya itu yang sebelumnya itu kita tidak menggunakan digital, tapi karena kita sekarang ini terus bergerak menuju ke perkembangan zaman, jadi kita menggunakan sesuatu yang digital. Yang maksudnya itu kita ingin mengajak, kita ingin memberi pemahaman kepada generasi muda, museum itu bukanlah sesuatu yang ketinggalan zaman atau atau kuno lah, yang seperti bahasa anak-anak sekarang malas datang ke museum karena museum itu terkesan kuno. Jadi kita tidak ingin hal itu dianggap oleh anak-anak sekarang, sehingga kita membuat sesuatu itu di Museum Tsunami itu lebih ke hal yang digital, sehingga mereka tertarik untuk datang ke Museum Tsunami. Contohnya, kita punya perpustakaan di Museum Tsunami, tapi kan perpustakaan itu identik dengan membaca. Jadi mungkin sebagian anak-anak muda sekarang mereka malas membaca, hanya ingin melihat. Jadi kita juga membuat perpustakaan digital, jadi sehingga mereka itu bisa melihat informasi-informasi mengenai tsunami itu secara digital.
Aksesnya juga begitu ya?
Iya benar, cara mengaksesnya juga. Jadi yang maksudnya kita itu tsunami itu pada generasi muda itu mereka harus tahu informasinya gitu. Jadi supaya apa, ketika terjadi bencana di masa depan mereka harus tahu harus berbuat apa, dan tidak hanya sebatas mereka hanya dapat menyelamatkan diri sendiri, tetapi mari sama-sama kita informasikan kepada mereka juga, jangan hanya menyelamatkan diri sendiri, tapi juga menyelamatkan orang banyak. Nah itu jadi fungsi dari gedung Museum Tsunami itu sendiri. Jadi kalau dari segi perkembangannya itu, dari segi jumlah pengunjung itu sangat meningkat, kemudian dari segi konten museum juga kita terus berupaya untuk menjadikan museum itu yang terbaik gitu.
Oke, sejauh ini Bu Intan, sejauh apa ini Museum Tsunami Aceh kita berperan dalam meningkatkan kesadaran dan juga potensi bencana di Aceh?
Iya, saya di Museum Tsunami itu kurator, juga di bagian seksi koleksi. Jadi kita keseharian kita itu adalah menyiapkan koleksi, juga membuat kontennya. Jadi konten yang kita pasangkan di Museum Tsunami itu memang mengajak masyarakat untuk aware terhadap bencana. Seperti kami juga berterima kasih kepada Bapak Carlos melalui agensi UN itu telah menyumbangkan foto. Jadi foto itu adalah tambahan koleksi yang ada di Museum Tsunami. Jadi kalau misalnya kita hanya memperlihatkan kepada anak-anak itu tentang diorama tsunami, mungkin itu menurut pandangan saya ya, mereka itu seperti hanya menerawang tsunami ini seperti ini. Tetapi kalau semua informasi itu dibantu dengan foto, seperti foto yang Bapak Gaspar telah berikan kepada kita, jadi masyarakat Aceh itu dapat melihat, oh segini parah Aceh saat itu. Jadi sehingga itu membuat bayangan nyata sama mereka bahwasanya Aceh dulu tuh seperti ini hancurnya karena tsunami gitu. Jadi tidak hanya kita suguhkan dengan koleksi-koleksi, tetapi juga kita dukung dengan fotonya, foto kejadian nyata tsunami.
Oke, baik. So maybe next ya, after this Bu Intan kita boleh full English saja ya. It is okay. So it will be better in programming.
Yes.
When they see this podcast, yeah. It's okay, Mr. Miklos. As Bu Intan said before, yeah. Yesterday, UN has given about 60 photos to Museum Aceh Tsunami. Yeah. What do you think about this program?
Well, we developed this exhibition together. My colleagues from across 12 UN agencies, my organization, the UN Information Center, and the Museum Tsunami, to demonstrate also that the extent to which the international community helped with the reconstruction. My colleague was here about a year ago, and she was in Banda Aceh, and she went to see the museum. And then she came back and said, look, there's not very little about the UN. So why don't we do something about this? Because the UN played such an important role here in the reconstruction. And that's when we contacted the museum and found a way to do this exhibition jointly.
Okay, so this program is very useful, and also to educate more people about these things, yeah. And also, such as Bu Intan said before, yeah, this Museum Tsunami Aceh gives more or a lot of things that everyone can see about the disaster, yeah. And for this time, what about something that we can learn from the disaster, and to educate more people in everywhere else in the world, yeah, about the mitigation for disaster, not only for tsunami, maybe the earthquake or in floods and everything else. What do you think about that?
Yes. So last October, I went to the island of Simelu in Aceh.
Yeah.
Actually, it was for a conference that was organized by RRI and the Ministry of Tourism. But once I was there, I also did an article about disaster preparedness. you know, because it's, well, you all know, on that island, even though it was closest to the epicenter, very few people died. Only 7 people died on the island. And that's because they had the knowledge of what to do when there's a tsunami, because they had another one in 1907. You know, they have this smoke they are very proud of, right? And so I think the lesson for all of us, the whole world, because disasters can happen everywhere, is that we have to be prepared. And that starts with knowledge. And I wrote an article about this for the UN website in New York, about how disaster preparedness or tsunami preparedness in Indonesia, particularly in Aceh, has increased a lot in the last 20 years. I understand that now in schools there's education to you know, drills for earthquake and tsunami, and that also they are even taught this Hmong in the other schools also, not just in Sumulu. And so, I mean, one can only hope that if and when there's the next tsunami, there will be far fewer victims, because people will know to run to the hill.
So this is very important to spread the good things, information, especially for mitigation to a lot of people in the world from Aceh. Okay. Moreover, Mr. Miklos, Aceh has a special autonomy region status. As we know that. How does the UN see Aceh's potential in supporting the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals today?
So the UN continues to work in Aceh, like in the rest of the country. At the request of the government, there are, you know, 26 UN agencies that are active in Indonesia on various development projects, each in their own area. And there are quite a few projects also here in Aceh. And, you know, that's also a sign of progress, that these projects, most of them are not about disasters. They are just normal kind of development project, right? And this is possible because the immediate aftermath of the disaster, that period is over, and because there is peace. So when there is peace, there can be development. So, for instance, the International Labour Organization, ILO, works with small businesses in the agriculture sector to increase their competitiveness and the employment opportunities by helping them take out bank loans, and also teaching the banks how to evaluate the riskiness of small businesses, not just to close that door, oh, it's a small business, it's too risky, but to find more sophisticated ways to evaluate the risk and therefore be able to lend to these small businesses so they have capital and they can grow. So that's an example of a UN project that is going on now. You know, UNICEF continues to work both in the area of vaccination, right, where we know that Aceh is one of the provinces, or probably the province with the lowest number of vaccination, or the lowest rate of vaccination, and then also works with schools to support, you know, education, particularly at the primary school level. So these are just examples of some, you know, UN projects that are taking place right now in Aceh that have nothing to do with the disaster anymore.
I hope so.
We are in a different era.
Nice one. So we also hope that UN will continue to help Aceh in rebuilding, more and more. Okay, so I go back to Bu Intan. Bu Intan, as Mr. Miklos told before, the UN also give us approaches in many ways, to recovery and to rebuild Acehnese to get better. And in Museum Aceh, what the contribution of Aceh Museum to facilitate the research, moreover about the research about the
education,
about research of the mitigation for tsunami.
So you know that Aceh Tsunami Museum have 3 functions. First is for education, and then for recreation, and also for evacuation. So for education, every visitor who come to Aceh Tsunami Museum, we give the information about disaster itself. Sometimes it will giving information by guide, and sometimes also by information in the wall information. So I mean that when the people go to museum, when they back to home, there is something that they learn from Aceh Tsunami Museum. So we try to make them aware to disaster. For example, we make like Bapak Carlos said before, there is tsunami alley. In that way, the visitor can feel what Aceh people feel when they in the big wave. So the height of the tsunami alley is same as the height of the tsunami itself. And then And also the other room give the information about tsunami. So we also get the collection from UN, like newspaper, and from that newspaper is tell about what they do after the tsunami.
Okay.
So, and also like the picture, and also some of the book by UNICEF. So the visitor who come to Aceh Tsunami Museum, when they say it is, I also get this one when tsunami happened. So this bring them to the past.
Oh, memory.
Past memory.
So everything's that Aceh Museum Tsunami do until now.
Yes,
It's very good for
So
research.
you know that after when earthquake happened in 2012, there are many children, school children, go to Aceh Tsunami Museum to save themselves. So at that time there is a quake about an 8 scala Richter, and at that time there are many school children go to Aceh Tsunami Museum to save themselves. It means that they know that Aceh Tsunami Museum can be a function as escape building. Yeah.
Okay, this is very useful also for mitigation,
Yes,
especially for local people and for the world, something like that. And also, of course, the Aceh Tsunami Museum will support about the education. And what about the what we call it? How to say, to give more something like to youth, to develop their skills, something like exhibition, something like that.
Aceh Tsunami Museum also every year there are a volunteer from the university. So they like magang volunteer, and they learn about a disaster in Aceh Tsunami Museum, and sometimes they also give the information. So they not only learn but also give the information.
So Museum Tsunami will also support to youth people to build more their skills, to give a good quality of their self. Okay, I'll go back to Mr. Miklos. Mr. Miklos, as we know, Aceh is well known to have abundant natural resources. And how can the United Nations help to ensure the economic development in Aceh remains sustainable and also environmentally friendly?
So the United Nations can help with this.
Yes.
It's not for the United Nations to ensure, right? I mean, Indonesia has a government, the Aceh province has a government. The UN is here on their request to provide support in areas where they require support. And, that can be, I mean, for instance, right now there's a project on dealing with plastic waste in the ocean. So the UN, one of the UN agencies, UNOPS, supports that. There are projects about energy transition, right, for Indonesia to be less dependent on coal for its electricity. Again, the UN supports that. There are projects related to sustainable tourism, where the UN sometimes is asked to support. But in many of these areas, Indonesia as a middle-income country, frankly, does not need the support of the UN. I mean, they know what has to be done. Sometimes that theoretical knowledge, needs to be translated into everyday life, so that people don't throw around garbage, or we consume less plastic, or we conserve energy. These kinds of things. The solutions exist. But for instance, when it comes to industrial development, one of the UN agencies, UNIDO, the UN Industrial Development Organization, works with both the Ministry of Industry, but also with industrial parks across Indonesia to have them become what's called eco-industrial parks. So to be more, ecologically friendly. And while they support these industrial parks, they also advise the government on how to change policy so that there are more incentives for industrial parks to do the right thing. And very often in a country like Indonesia, which is a middle-income country, the UN support is more at the policy level. We work with the government. Thankfully, Indonesia is not a poor country where the UN would distribute rice like it does in some really poor countries. So the UN's work is more at the level of policy advice.
Okay, as we know, like Bu Intan said before, yeah, if I continue that you have said before, also this industry can absorb also more people, yeah, to get more jobs, something like that. And this is one of the main challenges in Aceh, is unemployment and job opportunities, especially for young people. For young people, and are there UN programs that can help improve skills and employment in Aceh, especially for young people?
So there are UN programs that deal with employment. The one I mentioned earlier from the ILO, which is to make sure that people get the kind of education that's actually needed on the job market. Right? Yesterday, I had an interaction. I gave a lecture at the university here, and the students asked lots of questions, and it's clearly there are some very smart people in Aceh. At least those 150 I saw were very smart, young people.
Yes.
And frankly, the session was scheduled for 2 hours, and they wouldn't let me leave at the end. They kept coming up, not just to take photos, but also to ask more questions.
I see.
It really is these days. It's a knowledge economy. It is about learning and being able to upskill, so that people have other options than to be an object driver or seller of the kaki lima sellers, right?
Yeah, I see.
So really, education is the key, and it's going to be the key, even more. So yeah, I would really encourage everybody, whether they are young or old, to learn, and for parents and grandparents to really motivate their children to go to school, make the most of it. If possible, go to university and learn skills that will be useful in the future.
Okay, because as we know, like today, many people said that to get a job is getting harder and harder, especially for people that have less skills, something like that. So I think many programs like UN support to Aceh, especially, can develop, especially for youth people to get more job like that. Okay, in talking about environmental issues, Mr. Miklos, and also climate change in Aceh, as we know, maybe 2 days ago in Aceh is something like hot, and just now, until this afternoon maybe, in almost 12 and 1 p.m. something like that, it's raining. And also it's a kind of environmental issue and climate change in Aceh. And what do you think, Mr. Miklos, about the global context, to protect our environment, such as the forests, or what can we do to protect our life and also our environment and also our forest to get have more better life in the future?
I mean, as you said, the consequences of climate change are already here. We can feel them all the time. I mean, I must say though, coming from Jakarta, I don't think it's hot here.
Okay.
But it's
almost 31 degrees actually, maybe.
But there's wind. I don't know. Somehow it just feels different. Anyway.
I can feel it.
In terms of climate change, let me give two answers. First, about what governments or countries can do, and then what we as people can do. Right? So there are international agreements on climate change, including the Paris Agreement, where countries have committed to keep climate change below 2.5% compared to the beginning of the previous century, or if possible 1.5 degrees, not percent, sorry, degrees. We are not close to meeting this goal. Countries have made commitments, but now they have to fulfill these commitments. And this has to be done jointly. If countries always expect the other country to do it, then nobody will do it, and then the situation won't be helped. What is clear, though, is that there are economic dividends for greening one's economy. It is not incompatible to have economic growth and at the same time have an economy that is lower carbon intensity. So it is also in the interest of a country to change, whether in energy or on other uses, and build their economies that way. But you and I are not the government, and your listeners are not the government. I believe it's equally important what we as individuals can do. something that struck me when I was new in Jakarta, I've been here 2.5 years, is at the beginning, you know, you go to a shopping mall and the air conditioner is set to 16 degrees and the door is wide open.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I mean, what a waste of energy. But even I must say, when I went to my office first, I had my colleagues sit in coats. You know, when I moved from Europe to Indonesia, I didn't bring coats. Well, you don't need a coat in the tropics. They need coats inside.
Tropical country, actually.
Tropical country, but inside we make it too cold. So just by having, you know, the air conditioning not at 20 degrees but 25, you can still, you know, work like that. And and that already saves a lot of energy, right? Similar, you know, you guys give us here plastic bottles. It's better, right, for us to have our tumblers and for you to have a water fountain and use the water that way. So small things that make a difference, partly because, okay, one fewer bottle used, but also because when other people see it, then they will think, it's a good idea, I'll use less as well. You know, something that to me was very surprising. There is, I live in Jakarta Selatan, and I go, there's a kaki lima on the street where I buy my fruits and vegetables. And when I go there, I take my basket. Okay. And I mean, I must say, most of the other people who do the shopping there are Pembantu in the neighborhood. And then one time, one of them asked me and said, well, look, sir, you don't look so poor. How come you have your own bag?
I see.
You know?
Okay.
So it's a
there
real
are a lot of plastics, actually.
mentality change, right? Because I understand 2 generations ago, having plastic was a sign of wealth, right? So they know, but you know, it's not anymore. And now we really need to just consider that having a plastic is a waste.
Yes.
It's a waste for the production and it creates garbage. So these kinds of things where we can make a difference and use less, and what we've used, you know, try to recycle where the facilities exist. Certainly for compost, they exist everywhere. So these small things where we can all make a difference, whether in, you know, in energy or in garbage.
So from ourselves, to protect our world and our environment, something like that. Okay, I go back to Ibu Intan. Maybe we will add some from Mr. Miklos nih, Bu Intan. As curator from Museum Tsunami Aceh, also like Mr. Miklos said before, we have many programs that also this program has some like challenges, something like that. And what do you think about Museum Tsunami Aceh challenging until now? About how to educate people and also how to spread the good things, especially in mitigation from disaster, and also to keep our environment still eco-friendly, something like Mr. Miklos said before.
So in Aceh Tsunami Museum, we have every year have some activity like Smongbok. Smongbok is kind of activity. The museum gives information to the school. So museum go to school. And then in school, guide of museum give information about earthquake and tsunami, and also we don't forget to give the information about Aceh Tsunami Museum as a escape building. That is the important thing. After that, we also have activity name is Kajian. So in that activity, we go to the village to collect the information about tsunami from the survivor.
I see.
Yeah, I mean that when we get the information about survivor, how they save and how they survive after tsunami, we collect that information and we write in the book and we put in library. So we want every people go to Museum Tsunami, they can learn and learn from the other people experience. So we means that by that information, they know how to save themselves if the same disaster happen again in the future. So the other activities like we have also renungan, I mean that activities peringatan tsunami commemoration every 26 December. So we call all of the people who have give the participation to Aceh Tsunami Museum, and we do like small talk. So we share about information about that.
Okay. What about the climate change like today, nih, Bu Intan? Maybe, I mean, Museum Tsunami Aceh has a big role, yeah, to educate and to spread the good things, to some information about how people can also contribute, yeah, to save our environment, eco-friendly, yeah. Maybe we can see like today there are a lot of trees in Banda Aceh. Before that in 2004 maybe, yeah, there are nothing in Banda Aceh. And well, what will Museum Tsunami do? Tsunami Aceh do to give more positive sides and also to give contribution to people to give their what we call it, how to realize them, yeah. To save our energy and always save the environment, still eco-friendly. Maybe you can correlate. Museum Tsunami has a big role to spread a lot of things, like we have to keep our environment safe. Yeah, so there are no disaster camp here in Banda Aceh anymore.
Yeah. Can I explain in Indonesia?
Yes.
Udah nyerah nih.
Okay, it's alright.
Jadi kalau Museum Tsunami itu sendiri kan kita memang informasi kepada pengunjung itu untuk apa? Ini tentang tadi tentang ini kan.
Eco-friendly, to save, like keep our environment better, like to save bottle, not to spread it everywhere.
Jadi kalau pengunjung Museum Tsunami itu memang kita informasikan dari pada saat dia masuk pertama itu untuk tidak membawa makanan gitu. Jadi karena apa? Kita mengajak masyarakat itu sama-sama menjaga kebersihan di kalangan Museum Tsunami itu sendiri dulu gitu. Karena apa? Berdasarkan pengalaman kita pada saat mereka memasukkan botol-botol makanan itu ke semua area itu pasti bertumpukan sampah. Sedangkan kita Museum Tsunami itu kan tidak hanya dikunjungi oleh 100 orang, itu paling sedikit dalam sehari itu mencapai 1.500 orang. Jika semuanya membawa itu dan melakukan hal yang sama, itu tentunya Museum Tsunami tidak akan terawat. Jadi salah satu yang kita lakukan adalah pada saat masuk Museum Tsunami itu harap tidak membawa makanan gitu. Jikapun mau makan, kita siapkan ada semacam small resto lah gitu. Jadi mereka bisa duduk di situ menghabiskan makanannya dan mereka bisa lanjut untuk berkunjung gitu. Begitu juga kalau pada saat Covid dulu ya, kita itu memang menganjurkan setiap orang yang masuk pakai masker. Kalau nggak ada masker nggak boleh masuk gitu. Kita menerapkan itu.
Nice one, Mr. Miklos. I asked to Bu Intan, maybe what can Museum Tsunami Aceh do to give information to people who visit Museum Aceh to keep balance our environment still eco-friendly. One of the ways that Museum Tsunami Aceh do is give the regulation. Yeah, they make the regulation for visitors not to bring any foods inside the Tsunami Museum Aceh. Okay, maybe I'll go back to Mr. Miklos. Mr. Miklos, in facing the impacts of climate change, is there a UN initiative that can help Aceh in mitigating and adapting to natural disaster, such as floods or in rising sea level, something like that?
Yes, so there are programs like this in different ways. First of all, there is the disaster part, right? How when a disaster hits, how will people survive and save their property? And then there's also, indeed, our lives have to adapt for more flooding and also just perhaps, different climate, like you said. So the UN's Food and Agriculture Organization and also the International Fund for Agricultural Development run programs like this in collaboration with the government, how to adapt farming practices for different climate. Now, it doesn't mean that a UN staff goes and visits farmers, right? We work with the government and with NGOs as implementing partners. So actually, very often farmers don't even know it's the UN is involved. In general, there are several programs across Indonesia to make farming more competitive, right? Because one issue is that today, not enough young people want to be farmers. So because they have the impression that you can make a better living in a city in an office. So it is very important that farming remains attractive or becomes even more attractive for young people. Otherwise, we will all starve in 20 years, right? One of the flagship programs of the new president is food self-sufficiency for Indonesia, right? I mean, that requires people to remain farmers. So the UN, again, at the request of the government, helps in this area.
Okay, is there any challenges to implement that programs here in Indonesia? What do you think?
Well, I mean, there are challenges everywhere, right? You know, in my own experience in Indonesia, what you see, well, because of the change from the new order, Indonesia is a very decentralized country, right? For an organization like the UN, it's not enough to work with the central government and get to an agreement and have a program. It has to trickle down to the province, to the kabupaten, to the desa, and you know, if there's anybody in this chain who is not interested, the program won't succeed. Not in Aceh, but I've been to other provinces where I visited neighboring villages. One of them, excellent implementation of a UN program. The other one, maybe not so impactful, not so good. And you know, the UN program is the same. So it comes down to the people, you know, implementing. And I think it's, you know, diversity is definitely a beauty of Indonesia and very much a characteristic that decisions are made at the lowest level. Sometimes it also means more work when it comes to implementing a development project, because again, it's not enough to work with the central government, with the ministry in Jakarta, but you also have to work with the province, with the city or district, and then maybe sometimes even at the village level.
Okay, I see. The heterogeneity of the people in Indonesia, like you said before, and also this is one of the challenges to implement the UN programs. And in your opinion, what should the UN do or people do in Indonesia to educate and to get more realized people to success the program of UN, to implement the program of UN, so it will be better to our own good, something like that. So what should we do?
Yeah, so look, the program of the UN does not exist in a vacuum. I want to again emphasize that. It's support to the development plans of Indonesia, you know, drafted by Bappenas, approved by the government and the president. It is in the interest of the people to implement these. So, you know, if you're a village head, take advantage of the village fund and make sure that the programs that you submit from your village are going to help increase the competitiveness of the village's economy, for instance. So many times it's whatever would work for you to make the most of the government support will also help you make the most of the UN support when the UN is involved.
Okay, nice one. So we hope so, that the UN program will succeed here, not only in Banda Aceh, maybe in every regions in Aceh, of course. I go back to Bu Intan. Bu Intan, in museums Aceh, there are a lot of visitors from many countries, all over the world, overseas, something like that. So far, what other visitors' opinion about Aceh before tsunami and after tsunami, and what they think about our development of Museum Tsunami Aceh go digital until now?
Jadi kalau misalnya dibandingkan sebelum tsunami, kita memang nggak ini ya, jumlah kita memang Museum Tsunami itu didirikan setelah tsunami gitu. Jadi didirikan pada yang seperti saya bilang tadi itu 2011 itu baru dibuka untuk umum. Jadi
terbuka untuk umum, maksudnya masyarakat juga dari luar seperti apa tanggapannya?
Oh iya, tanggapannya untuk Museum Tsunami. Jadi kan mereka berkunjung ke Museum Tsunami itu untuk mendapatkan informasi mengenai bencana dan tsunami itu sendiri. Jadi memang ada banyak, bagi mereka yang sudah pernah datang ke Aceh sebelum tsunami, mereka beranggapan tsunami itu setelah tsunami itu Aceh sudah lebih baik ya. Sekarang sudah ada museumnya sehingga kita bisa belajar mengenai bencana gitu. Jadi tujuan kita sebenarnya didirikan Museum Tsunami ini memang untuk memberitahukan bahwasanya tsunami itu pernah terjadi di Aceh. Sejarahnya itu bisa dilihat di Museum Tsunami. Sama halnya juga dengan seperti Pak Carlos bilang tadi, itu yang Pulau Simelu. Di Pulau Simelu itu kan ada cerita tentang smog. Jadi itulah yang menyelamatkan orang-orang di Simelu itu selamat ketika bencana gempa tsunami itu terjadi pada tahun 1907. Hal serupa juga kita buat di Aceh gitu. Dengan didirikannya Museum Tsunami, kita harap akan banyak orang yang selamat jika terjadi bencana serupa. Jadi pandangan orang itu, oh Aceh sekarang sudah lebih baik, sudah ada museumnya gitu, sehingga kita tidak perlu jauh-jauh untuk belajar bencana. Museum Tsunami juga bisa gitu.
Okay, and what about the visitors that learn something in Museum Tsunami Aceh? Is there any something that they get back to their own country and to implement our style here, to mitigation, and they implement it in their country? Is there any visitors or some researchers like that?
Kalau untuk mereka mengimplementasi di tempatnya itu, kalau untuk dari segi masyarakat kita tidak menjangkau sejauh itu untuk sekarang. Tapi kalau dari segi visitornya itu adalah sekolah, pada saat mereka pulang dari museum, biasanya itu anak-anak sekolah datang ke Museum Tsunami itu, mereka datang satu kelompok gitu. Jadi kita data, oh ini dari sekolah, misalnya kita bilang ini dari SMP 17 misalnya. Jadi setelah mereka datang ke Museum Tsunami, pada saat kegiatan Smongbok itu kan kita akan datang ke sekolah itu sendiri. Jadi di sana kita menanyakan kepada siswanya apa yang telah kamu pelajari dari Museum Tsunami, dan apa yang udah mereka dapat, dan apa yang telah mereka lakukan dari yang mereka dapat dari museum. Jadi sebagian anak-anak itu bilang, kita ada kasih tahu tetangga Bu untuk datang ke Museum Tsunami untuk belajar belajar tentang sejarah tsunami. Kemudian juga sebagian anak-anak itu bilang, ada juga tetangga kami itu yang udah datang Bu gitu. Jadi semacam itulah. Jadi kita memang selalu melakukan feedback setelah mereka datang, apa sih yang mereka dapat. Nah itu.
Oke. Kedepannya nih Bu Intan, apa yang bisa dilakukan ya? What can we do to get more involvement of youth people especially, to get more knowledge about mitigation of disaster, especially for earthquake and tsunami?
Ya, jadi untuk kedepannya itu kita berharap dengan seperti yang Bapak Gaspar berikan itu foto-foto. Jadi seperti yang saya katakan sebelumnya kan kadang-kadang itu kita ingin memberikan pemahaman mengenai bencana gempa dan tsunami. Jika hanya dilihat dari benda koleksinya itu aja, mungkin itu tidak menggambarkan cerita tsunami itu pada anak-anak atau pada masyarakat gitu. Tapi dengan dukungan foto-foto yang diberikan itu kan dapat menggambarkan seperti apa kehancuran. Jadi gitu. Jadi kembali lagi ke tadi pertanyaannya itu, jadi
untuk melibatkan.
Jadi tetap yang melibatkan masyarakat itu pada setiap kegiatan gitu.
Okay, nice one. And I go back to Mr. Miklos ya. Yeah. It's related to questions from Bu Intan as well. What can we do to get more involvement of the youth people? To get more realize and to get more knowledge and to get more awareness, to build their awareness of mitigation from disaster of tsunami or maybe earthquake or other any disasters.
Well, certainly establishments like the Tsunami Museum are good examples of that. Including this education in the curriculum, as I understand has been done in Aceh, is another great example of that. Perhaps also do feature movies that children are interested in watching. And then they learn from that. It's about preparedness. Which starts with riding the motorcycle with a helmet, I must say. It's not just tsunami, right? We can talk about there are small dangers in life and big dangers in life.
Okay.
And ideally we would be prepared to deal with all of them.
Okay. Last but not least, Mr. Miklos, and also the last for Bu Intan, let's after this, what is the main message from the UN to people in Aceh especially in building a better or more sustainable future and also to have better life in the future after tsunami?
I can only repeat what I've said before, is that the message from the UN, if you'd like, is indeed there are the Sustainable Development Goals, which are about, no poverty, healthcare for everybody, no discrimination. Many of these are goals that we can implement in our own lives. I mean, here now we've mostly spoken about disasters, but there are so many other areas, from gender equality to inclusivity with people who have disabilities.
Yeah.
So in all of these, to just when we hear about these ideas, to also see how we can implement them in our own lives. We've talked a bit about this in terms of the environment, but the same thing could be done again in terms of gender equality or education. So it's to concentrate on what we ourselves can do, as opposed to only on what the government can do.
For Bu Intan, ya, maybe terakhir singkat boleh ini Bu, pesan dan harapannya boleh singkat.
Iya, jadi kalau saya dari Museum Tsunami itu berpesan ini ya. Jadi bencana gempa dan tsunami itu kan kita tidak tahu kapan dia akan terjadi. Dia dimanapun kita berada itu gempa atau tsunami itu pasti akan terjadi gitu kan. Jadi kita sekarang ini, apalagi itu anak-anak yang sekarang generasi muda itu kan mereka tidak punya pengalaman mengenai bencana itu. Makanya dari saya tekankan memang Museum Tsunami itu tidak hanya khusus untuk anak-anak, tapi juga untuk semua kalangan. Tapi saat ini anak-anaklah yang menjadi yang terdepan lah gitu, karena mereka itu tidak pengalaman gitu. Jadi pesan saya itu karena bencana gempa dan tsunami itu kita tidak tahu kapan terjadi. Kemudian karena kita pun di Aceh ini adalah Aceh itu terletak di bawah ring of fire, yang memang dia bencana gempa tsunami itu pasti ada di Aceh gitu. Jadi kita itu tidak perlu takut, tidak perlu tidak perlu khawatir. Langkah yang harus kita lakukan itu adalah kita belajar bagaimana bersahabatlah dengan bencana. Makanya kita di Museum Tsunami itu kadang-kadang itu membuat pameran yang dia temanya itu temporer. Jadi pernah kita buat itu judul pamerannya itu bersahabat dengan tsunami gitu. Jadi tsunami itu jangan dianggap sesuatu yang menakutkan, walaupun saat itu banyak sekali korban jiwa gitu. Tapi untuk kedepannya itu kita bersahabatlah dengan tsunami, karena kita tidak pernah tahu tsunami itu kapan terjadi. Yang kita butuh adalah edukasi dan informasi apa yang harus kita lakukan jika bencana itu tsunami terjadi.
Very well. Thank you very much, Bu Intan, Kurator Museum Tsunami Aceh, and also Mr. Miklos Gaspar, the Director for Indonesia and Philippines from UN. Have big chance here, and we also thank you for your support and your time. We have sharing a lot of things about mitigation for Aceh people, especially for tsunami and other disaster. Thank you very much for today, everyone. We will see you again in other meeting. I'll see you again. Thank you.